So this episode of the Trip Sitting podcast is with one of my really, really close friends, Jesse. Now, Jesse is honestly probably the reason why I ever tried psychedelics to begin with. We've always had just a really special bond, and he's always made me think about things differently and think about myself differently, and has been just one of those people in my life that I truly respect and love, and any conversation I get to have with him is always just a treat and a blessing. So this was one of those conversations, and I'm really excited to share it with everybody. We talk about psychedelics. We talk about our relationships with our fathers. We talk about music festivals, really just anything. And I hope you enjoy. How you doing, Jesse?
Isn't that a loaded question?
Yeah, it is.
That's like a loaded gun almost. Like, how's your day going? Oh, let me give it to you.
Yeah. What's up?
No, I'm good. I should have been working more today, but honestly, not really. I'm struggling. I am struggling to work. But,
why?
It's a combination of I am waiting for January because that's when I'm supposed to be like actively pursuing my accounts.
Yeah.
And also that I don't get like included in meetings and things from other people that are talking to my supposed customers.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm kind of this waiting game of like how much I'm supposed to be doing versus not doing. And my boss doesn't seem to care either way, but like obviously wants me to be working. Yeah. And it's just, I also have like finals this coming week for my classes. So it's, like I'm thinking a lot about school. Sometimes I have a hard time balancing like grad school with work mentally. Physically, they're both very easy. So it's actually like not physically difficult. It's mentally difficult.
Yeah.
If that
why
makes
is
sense.
it, I guess like, why do you think it's mentally difficult?
It's like the separation of, like when I'm working, I'm turning on like my work brain, or I'm trying to engage with people over the computer. When I'm doing like school, like grad school, I'm actively trying to think about like how much I know about the subject that we're doing. Like this class that I'm finishing is global supply chain, and the other one's international business. And so like when I'm trying to learn, I don't know, it's like two different forms of learning. Like one is like I'm learning about school and trying to like grow my education. And the other is I feel like I'm just trying to get by and do what I have to do to make money for somebody else. It's not even really feels like it's my money.
Yeah. So I guess like, do you just not care about the job as much?
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely it. It's like I want to care about it because I feel like I need to make money. I need to like have a purpose, and people get jobs when they graduate from college, but sometimes that feels very, very forced, you know?
Yeah.
I'd love to be doing something different, I think, ultimately.
If kind of like, do you know, I guess this is like fucking hard because I think most people probably don't know after they go to college and kind of get like siloed into what they think they should be doing based off of the skills that they've learned. But like, I don't know, what would your ideal job be?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I think about it like almost every day. I feel like, okay, so something that I've been going through just in the last few months is I really don't think I'm enjoying being in the electrical industry as much as I just kind of thought I was going to. But I didn't like study electrical engineering. I studied industrial engineering, which also isn't really like a focus. It's like it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but all kind of just generic process improvement for engineering, right? So it's like, what even is that in the real world? It's for most people consulting or working in manufacturing plants, but like I just don't have interest in like either of those. Like my dad started.
I don't think I've ever asked you this question. What made you go into engineering to begin with, like in the first place?
I don't know. My mom, she was like, you should go study something that will pay off in the future and do more than just like she's like, just do, well, I guess it started with the fact that I got into Cal Poly, early decision, like it was like October of 2012. I graduated high school 2013. So it's 2012. And I was like, oh, I got into college. Cool. I literally had only applied to Cal Poly at that point.
That was your only school?
That was my only school. In fact, I applied to 3 others and got into 2 of them. One was Cal Poly Pomona.
So the other one?
I was like, okay, that's fine. And then I got into Montana State.
Okay. And that's random as shit.
Yes. And because they were going to offer me like a full ride.
Got it.
Scholarship, right? So I was like, okay, I could go to Montana, or I go to Cal Poly Pomona, but like both of those were just like, whatever. And Cal Poly SLO 3 hours from my house. So I'm like, okay, that works. Now what do I study? Because you have to choose a major at Cal Poly, right? You got to choose a major when you're a freshman, like before I had to choose my major before my application was submitted, which is the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Luckily, I didn't have to change because I feel like I enjoyed learning about engineering, but it wasn't like, I don't know. I do like 2 years of calculus and physics, and I was like, I hate this. I actually almost failed, which I think I told you about back in the day. But as a refresher for those people that are maybe listening to this,
we haven't actually started yet.
Okay, good. I'm just making. Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe. How long do you talk to your guests before you even?
I'm making everything up that I say completely on the spot right now. We might actually use some of this. I've no idea. I can just tell that you're still like more uptight than you would normally be right now, just because we're being recorded on a screen. You know what also helps? Okay, if you go into the top right corner of me, so like take your mouse, there's like a button that you can click to like expand frame. So do that on me, so you're looking more at me and less at you. Oh,
that's actually perfect. Can I make me even smaller?
I unfortunately you can't. I've tried.
I would love to
take me out of the equation, because when you look at yourself, like you just don't fucking like you become so much more aware of how you look and how you sound, and you want to be like portraying yourself in some weird fucking way that doesn't actually make any sense. That's like it, like, you know, how do I want to be perceived right now? Like, now that I know that other people are actually listening.
Oh, that's such a weird concept to even think about, like that somebody will be listening to me and watching me, and every little thing that I'm doing and thinking, someone's going to be like, oh, I noticed he just did that.
See, like, I think we think that people are going to notice that, but in the reality of things, like, probably nobody fucking notices shit. Like, they're like we think, I think we in general think people care so much more about what we do than they actually do. Like, we're so quick to judge ourselves and see like flaws, quote unquote, in ourselves that most people just don't even fucking realize.
So why do we overthink so much then about like all of that? Like, why is that even a human trait?
Dude, that is a great fucking question. That I would actually love to have the answer to, because I catch myself overthinking every little tiny fucking situation sometimes. I mean, especially like, I'm just trying to think of like, I went to a work conference for the very first time in my life, like, you know, a couple months ago or whatever. And I know that at the work conference, you know, you're working, you're with a bunch of people you don't know. And like, I just remember consciously being aware of the fact that I'm projecting myself to look and act a certain way based on how I think these people at this conference would want me to work and act. And I remember afterwards just thinking like, I just felt so fucking transactional. Like, it just felt so fucking fake. Everything about it. And it's just so
very fake,
so annoying. And like I'm honestly not sure at all where I was going with this, but I remember you asked that why do we overthink things? And I'm even overthinking my fucking answer to why I overthink things. Like, it's just, I think it's just fucking human nature. Like, it's just our fucking egos just want shit to be just so like goddamn perfect all the time. And like, that doesn't exist.
Like animals don't overthink anything. They just do.
No. Yeah, exactly. Like they just have pure human nature. Like, we have this level of consciousness that's beyond human nature. Like, I don't think a dog wakes up and thinks like, oh shit, I'm a dog. Whereas like we wake up and we're like, oh fuck, like I'm a human. I gotta go do all these fucking human things and make all these decisions and think about the past and worry about the future. Whereas like animals, for the most part, I'm sure there are some mammals out there. I think dolphins are super smart. They might think like, oh fuck, I'm a dolphin. But but like most animals don't wake up and think that. They're purely survival. Everything they do is purely survival instincts. And like that's the whole point of our egos to begin with, is like it is for survival, but there comes past the point of physiological survival to now the point where it's like all psychological. And as we progress in, I don't know, just our standards of living, there's less survival shit to have to worry about. So like our instincts don't take over. Like, we're not just using our instincts on a fucking daily basis. I'm sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. Like, there's nothing that I need to be using my instincts for that would prepare me for working a desk job.
So maybe that's like part of it, is that we have taken the animalistic part of ourselves out of the equation.
Yeah.
When living, just in general. So it's like we've numbed that part of our brain, and maybe that's just like a part of higher sentience, right? Yeah. It's just like having removed that, I guess.
I don't know if you can like fully remove that, is the thing. Like, if you were to fully remove the animalistic part of us, like, then what the fuck's the point? I mean, what's the point in general, I guess, but like, yeah, I don't know. Like, if we, I think the more that we go away from those animal instincts, I think that's what creates like the overactive mind. That's why we're so overactive all the time, is because we're trying so hard, like, not to be like these animals and like not to, you know, feel everything that we're feeling. But like, that's what part of being human is feeling all of those things. But as we've like evolved in society and done this shit, we're like, oh no, like, you know, you can't be doing that all the time. Like, you know, if you're feeling sad and shit and just crying, like, you can't do that at your desk job without everyone telling you to fucking stop and just do your work. You know, I mean, like, yeah. You
wouldn't last long.
No, you wouldn't. But like, you know, we're told that we have to suppress our emotions and compartmentalize shit that we feel, which is like the animalistic portion of us. And that just becomes like ingrained in us as we grow up, I believe. I have done very minimal research on this, and I am not a scientist, but these are my core beliefs.
Yeah. No, that I agree with all that. I'd say that, and this may be the tricky part about like going back to what you said earlier, or asking me about my job and what I like and don't like about what I'm doing. I think is that I feel sometimes like I'm doing too much like monotonous work that doesn't feel. You know what it is? I think I almost just had like a brain blast.
Yeah.
Like, it's I'm removing myself so far from the animalistic part that's what I'm discovering I need more of, is like, I want to have more human interaction and more real, like I'm actually contributing, like doing something, whatever that thing is supposed to be.
Yeah.
I am so far, like in software sales, I'm so far removed from it, even though like my actual job is to be providing software to like electrical utility companies that are gonna like use the software to manage their jobs better. Like, it's actually helping people eventually reduce strain on the grid, which is cool. I just feel like it's so robotic.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to like not be a robot. Like you have to almost like to do it right, you have to fit into the robot like scheme, I guess. I don't even know if that makes sense.
No, I think it definitely makes sense. I mean, I think a lot of people that are in our positions are doing that. One thing that I've been like thinking of lately is like I think all humans want to be creative. Like we want to be creating something like art, music. Like that's why those things existed so fucking long ago with like the cavemen, and like you find like cave paintings, and like they have all these rituals and stuff that involve, you know, makeshift drums and shit and like different sounds. Like that's such an animalistic part of us, is just breaking that down to what it is, which is just creating something that when we get into jobs and we're not doing that, that's when we start overthinking, and like that's when we start becoming, you know, I guess just not as motivated to want to do stuff, as like when we're not being creative in really any way. Like it's that monotonous tasks that you're doing that are robotic, that are not creative. And like, I mean, in your job, even in software sales, like how often do you ever get to be creative?
Like never. Probably never, but I want to say it's more often than that. To give it some credit, like what I do in like the engineering world, I do have to have some creativity, but like only in the sense of like scheduling meetings with people and like following up to fucking emails. Like it's not like sometimes I try to fuck with people and like mix up my words and emails a little bit to make them like actually read it. And if they mention like, oh, that was like a funny email you sent, I'm like, oh, you actually like understood my sarcasm through email. Like that's impressive.
Yeah. Like those little tiny things that just give us life throughout the day.
Yeah. And that's like kind of depressing. Like that's our most engaging aspect, is like typing out little words to people and like having some sort of humorous interaction. I mean, maybe that's okay though. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't feel right.
I don't think there's anything. I think labeling things as okay and not okay is where then like again we're going to start to go off and just start over analyzing and overthinking everything again. It's more of just things are what they are, and like we can't do a lot to change that. But we can always change ourselves and change how we react to situations and change how we think about things. But like we can't change the things themselves, or again label them as good or bad, because then it's going to cause us to want to lean one way. It's just, I don't know, understanding how things make us feel, which is really hard because we're not taught to do that ever. And like even when I feel a certain way, like that's not actually what I'm feeling. It's going to go like a lot deeper than that. Like if somebody does something and it makes me angry, like it's not like, oh, that makes me feel angry. It's wait, I'm feeling angry. Why does that thing that they just did make me feel angry at the end of the day? And maybe it's actually because like, you know, I had some weird experience when I was 11 years old where somebody did that and they got really angry. And so now I think you have to get angry in these situations. So like, I don't know, figuring all of that out that's where I'm currently using most of my free time. To just, I don't know, dive into myself. Thinking? Yeah, just thinking. That's what happens when you're unemployed. Is that you can? This is now what I consider my full-time job, which is podcasting.
How's that been going?
And writing on the blog. It's been awesome. I really got to say, it's been fucking fantastic. So yeah, I got laid off 2 weeks ago, and I realized that I was also in software sales, as you know, different type of software, but like I was already at the point where I was like, fuck, I don't like what I do. I don't know what I want to do besides that, but I was, I don't know, dreaming of the day where like I could just not be doing that. And then the universe answered my prayers and I got laid off, which was great. Cause like I wasn't sad at all afterwards. I was immediately like, fuck yeah. Like I get to wake up and think, if I could do anything today, what would I do? And then I get to do that within my means, of course.
That's nice.
It is nice.
That's a freeing experience.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And like, I was always somebody who took work really, really seriously and thought that, you know, like I always wanted to be a great employee and like, you know, work at a company and make a bunch of money. And my mindset has very much changed. not that I'm going to be a piece of shit employee. It's just that like, there's so many other things that matter in this world to me that have nothing to do with work. And it's been like so ingrained in me that this is what I need to be doing for the rest of my life, just for the sake of that. And when I'm sitting at a desk and not being creative or doing anything, it doesn't make me feel good. So if I can find a way to get out of that, I would ideally like to. And now I have to figure that out. And I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing next other than moving to Denver in 3 months.
So that's for sure happening.
Yeah, I mean, barring anything like that I can't, you know, foresee in the future. But yeah, that's the plan for now, which is fun. And they also just legalized psychedelics, which is tight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Sure did.
I don't know what that means exactly. Like I kind of read over the bill, and it seems like there just needs to be like the psychedelics for therapeutic use in place by like 2024. And then there's not many, I guess, guidelines as to how they're going to be actually implementing that. So I think that's what they now are using, like need to figure out over the next years. Like this passed and now they need to just fucking figure it out, which will be really interesting. So like being there as part of that, like that could be cool to somehow get into that in some way. Cause like, I mean, as much as I, you know, didn't like my job or anything, and it had nothing to do with the company itself or anything. It's just, I just wasn't creative and wasn't like aligned with what I want to do in the world, which is to help people. And I still need to make money at the end of the day. Like I can't go broke. I don't want to go broke. I could, I think I'd be fine too. Like, do you ever think like, if you just like if you had to be homeless, like, do you think you'd figure it out?
I actually, I think about that a lot. Like the challenge it would be might be kind of fun.
I mean, I think it would be, I think it would give me such a new perspective. And tell me, you know, I don't know, help me figure out, you know, align more with what I actually then wanted to like get out of that situation if I wanted to. And like also too, this is such like a privileged conversation to be able to have is like, what if we were homeless? Cause there's a lot of people that are just born into terrible situations and aren't given the tools to fucking figure it out, and they have to. And, you know, that needs to be taken care of. But that's not the conversation. We can fucking talk about this and not feel bad about it. So fuck everyone. If they say
Absolutely.
that, if this is something. But speaking of psychedelics, Jesse, you're probably the single reason, like if I really traced it back to why did I ever try a psychedelic to begin with, it was probably you, knowing that you did it. And we've been friends for so fucking long now. And I don't know if I've ever specifically told you that. I know that you were part of, you know, probably, you know, part of it, but like you're probably the true single source. Like if it hadn't been for you, my life would be so vastly different right now. And I think about that a lot, which is really, really interesting. When did you first try psychedelics? Was it when you were in college or was it when you were still in high school?
So I guess that's, how do you define a psychedelic then fully? Because I tried weed when I was 16, smoked weed for the first time. You do?
I don't.
Okay, I don't either. So some people do, and I'm like, it does not really,
it's
to
got
me, exhibit the same
psychoactive properties or whatever, but like when I say psychedelics, I'm meaning like acid, mushrooms. yeah, exactly, the good stuff.
Yes. So what's actually funny is when you asked me a while ago to come on the podcast, I thought about, like, wow, you know, I probably have to answer some questions that I haven't thought about in a long time. And this is a good one.
And we're going to get so much
answer.
deeper than this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
I've got quite a curveball for you later.
Oh, good. Awesome. Fuck yeah. Um, okay. Let's see. I was, okay. So here's something important to know. I was, at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo for 5 years. The 5th year I spent doing virtually nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like I was almost graduated, but just wanted to fuck around. My first year was like the exact opposite. I was a super try hard. I wanted to like be really involved in like school and learning and blah, blah, blah. And then I got a 1.9 GPA after my first quarter at Cal Poly. And basically it was like, whoa, slow down. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Then the next quarter came by, almost the exact same thing. I got a 1.6, which honestly didn't think was possible to get that many D's.
And so this is when you were trying?
Yeah, well, kind of. I mean, I was pledging beta, right?
Okay.
The whole time, whole first quarter into the second quarter, and because Cal Poly has like three quarters.
Yeah.
And so I was just fucking around way too much, mostly drinking too much, but also just like hanging out with friends on the weekends, whatever. But like, it wasn't until the end of that year, in spring quarter, where I was almost kicked out. Like they said you have, I don't know, was it 2 quarters in a row, you get put on an academic probation, and then if you get a third quarter, you just get kicked out of school.
Jeez.
So the third quarter, I got 2.5.
Okay.
Progress. So I did not get kicked out.
That is progress.
And luckily I stayed, because Cal Poly is the sole reason I got into psychedelics in the first place. And if it wasn't for like one specific person that guided me through all of it, I would never have been able to continue myself, which was Joel.
Yeah.
Joel Hufford, my roommate. He was my random roommate freshman year, and we lived together also sophomore year. So it was sophomore year. So it was 2014, September 2014 is when Cal Poly's fall quarter started that year. So I'm now a sophomore, 19 years old. And Joel says to me, "Hey, do you want to go out to the beach and do some shrooms?" I was like, I've never done shrooms before, but sure, let's do it. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
And I was so scared, so nervous for like, I don't know. I really hadn't done any other drugs at that point. I was actually like regularly drinking and smoking weed, but just nothing.
Just having a grand old time.
Yeah, exactly. It's a grand old time. Enjoying college, just like pledging a fraternity, all the good stuff. But then because I was so, like school was so difficult for me, in engineering school specifically. I don't think everyone had this problem in college, but like specifically like at Cal Poly, it's well known that like the average engineering GPA is, don't quote me on this, something like 2.8. Like the average of all the engineers, like it's really low. So like getting above a 3.0 at Cal Poly as an engineer, might as well be a perfect straight A student at that point.
Gotcha.
At other schools, it's like totally not the case, right?
Yeah.
Still wasn't me though. I like graduated from Cal Poly with a 2.8.
Okay.
At the end of 5 years. So I survived. I made it.
Yeah.
What was the question? Oh, when I did psychedelics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were at the beach. So there's what's it called? Montaña de Oro is a beach city, I guess you could say, near San Luis Obispo in California. And it's just this beautiful beach with this crazy landscape of what is like sand dunes mixed with like meadows and like really crazy looking trees. And it kind of is like that up the coast of California, from San Luis Obispo up to Monterey Bay. I'd say like where Big Sur goes through also is like this really crazy like wilderness desert beach landscape. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's perfect for like psychedelics. It's perfect landscape for sitting there on the beach. So it was like a warm day. We go out there on the beach and it's just me and Joel. I think it was, at least. Yeah. We were sitting out there. And I did, I don't know, 3.5 grams. So like a whole eighth. My first go ever doing anything psychedelic. I sat there looking out at the ocean for what felt like an eternity, but it was just probably 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
And what really blew my mind was not even that I was like seeing cool colors and things were changing shape, and I was physically feeling like giddy and excited. I mean, the whole like the giggle phase happens to me like, oh man, it's like every single time I explode with laughter. I think it's because I'm thinking about laughing, and I'm like, why am I laughing? And I realize I'm like doing drugs, and then like the thought of doing drugs is making me laugh more.
Oh
like,
yeah, that was
it's like a vicious cycle.
That's the exact same fucking thing happens to me. It's just the more I think about it, the more I'm just gonna start laughing again, and the more I'm like, this is. It's like my existence at that moment is just so funny to me for whatever reason. Like the fact that this moment is happening, and then I think about this moment happening is just so funny.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And until you like do, until you do like shrooms, or like I get with LSD, I think it happens to me even more so.
Yeah.
But with shrooms, I feel like my insides are tickling themselves almost.
Honestly, actually, just really quick side thing, like about that of just like laughing at like a particular moment. I remember right after I fucking got let go 2 weeks ago that, you know, like it happened. And I was like, oh fuck, like this happened. And I remember walking into my house because I was outside when it happened. So I was working outside. It was a beautiful day. And I remember I walked into my room and I looked at myself in the mirror and just started laughing fucking hysterically again. Like it was like that same exact sort of feeling of like, holy shit, this is so funny. Like this actually just happens. Like this is like this moment that I'd essentially been like thinking about, like, what if this happens? And then it happens. I was laughing for like probably a good like 5-10 minutes just by myself. And I specifically remember thinking like, this is literally what happens like when I'm on shrooms. I was completely sober. But it's cool when actually things from a psychedelic experience happen in life when I'm not on psychedelics, and I could like be like, oh damn, like this is cool.
That's amazing. It's honest. That's actually like a really good point about feeling like I want to call them like psychedelic feelings when you're sober.
That's the best.
It's incredible, and it's almost like empowering. I feel like I'm okay. Well, this is going to sound a little cocky because I don't mean it this way, but I feel like I'm better than other people when I have that feeling. But it's not like from a I'm better than you perspective. It's more like I know something that you don't, and I want to share it with you when your time is right.
Yeah.
You know, that's that sort of feeling.
It's like, I don't know how to share that shit with people that I know have not been through a similar experience, like without sounding like I'm kind of better than you. Like it's hard. And I don't know if this is just us overthinking the situation again, but like every time that I know something that I know somebody doesn't, but even if I tried to explain it, there's no possible way in which they would understand, even if they wanted to. Most of the time they don't want to, is I think the thing, like, because again, like, as you said, like they're not ready for it. So like I'm, I don't need to be fucking sharing my enlightened soul with all these people that don't give a shit. But like it makes me laugh when I'm like, fuck, like I know where this is going. Like, I don't, like when one of my friends gets into like a relationship or something, and like, I know how it started, and like, all this shit. And like, I know it's not going to end well. Like, I just fucking know that. I don't want to fucking ruin it for them right at the beginning. Like, I'll ask them maybe a couple probing questions and maybe get them thinking about shit. But like, I'm not somebody, one, what if it does work out? I could be wrong too. But like, I'm just thinking of the most recent example of this happening. I knew it was not going to end well, and then it did not end well. And I remember at the beginning being like, you guys, like, this is so cute. It's going to end so poorly, but like, I hope you have fun in the meantime.
Were these friends of yours?
Yes, friends of mine.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's hilarious. Honestly, it's one of those things where, like, I don't know how to describe this feeling to people, but the best I can describe is when you are so content with yourself, doesn't matter what you're doing, you're just content. You're feeling good, and you know that somebody else could be feeling the same way you do, but you can't force it on them, but you want to. So you can't force that. And you want to give someone information, but you're not sure that they will even receive it well.
Yeah.
I struggle with that on a daily basis, like with just whether I'm like on psychedelics or not. I feel like I want to share information.
Yeah.
But
most people don't care.
Right time. Yeah, they don't care.
The same way that we want to share information with them, I bet there's fucking something they're dying to share with you. And that in their own way that they're like, no, like they don't care. But no, there's something with, I think, psychedelics, like once you have enough experience. I mean, also too, like I don't know, if you had to guess, how many times in your life have you tripped, Jesse?
It's more like a better number is how many times per year. So, it's, I'd say I started 2014. So 6, 7, 8 times, let's call it 40. I'd say 40 to 50 times probably.
Okay.
Of like good tripping experiences, which is actually, it feels like a lot lower number than I thought it was going to be. But when you do the math, that's probably about right. Yeah.
So
what about you?
More than the average person. Me, I'm trying to think, because like there are phases in my life where I know that I've been taking it a lot more than others, and like during those phases, I don't know, I took it like 10 times each, and there's been like 2 big phases where I was doing it a lot. I'd say probably of like full on trips, 30 to 50.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range. And then I've microdosed a lot. But not for like actual purposes that I should have been microdosing for. Like I've microdosed on like a Saturday afternoon so I could drink all day, which is just so stupid. But it makes me feel so much better than if I'm just drinking all day.
You mean physically or just mentally and emotionally?
Both. Just, I'm so happy the whole day. Like I've just got the biggest smile on my face that you just can't get off. And people are like, dude, what are you on? Like, it's so noticeable. And I'm past the point of caring too. Like, I remember when I used to like trip or anything, like I would always be like, anytime I go out anywhere, I'd be like, I don't want anybody to know I'm tripping right now. And like, I'd be like a, very stark face and, but now I'm like, I just don't give a shit. Like I want to be the person there with like the biggest smile on my face, because people like happy people. I want to be around other happy people too. If I see someone that looks like they're not having a good time and looks so goddamn serious, I don't want to be around them. Like I want to be around the person that looks like they're having fun.
100%.
So back to you tripping for the very first time, which we did not finish.
Yes.
You left off you were sitting there for like 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah. So the experience that I had was so much more intellectual, I think, than I was expecting. Mm-hmm. Which is probably the case for everyone. Their first time out, they go through I want to say like the realization process that happens post that giggle phase, where you're like thinking and contemplating, which I already do a lot as is.
Yeah.
It's almost like for the first time in my life, I felt true peace and clarity about one specific thing. And you're going to be able to relate to this for sure. Yeah. I realized that even though my father and I have had a very strenuous relationship, I still loved him. And I still wanted... That was
the fucking topic I was going to bring up.
Oh, good. Good segue. Yeah. It's, so having divorced parents has proven to be extremely difficult, but also I think I progressed like as an adult much earlier on than a lot of people do. So I don't like want to discount that either, because I feel like I matured so quickly that by the time I was 18, I was like I can handle life. I'll just handle whatever throws at me. I've already been through enough shit.
Like I'm just going to handle it. Like not that like I know what to do, more of just the fact like I already know with 100% confidence that I can simply handle it. Like I have the tools to figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even if I'm making terrible decisions, but I still feel like I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was just sitting there on the beach, and at that point, Joel had kind of wandered off. He's like, he's like, I can't be near you right now. I'm like, it's like overly aggressive for my first time doing shrooms, homie, but that's fine. So he like literally wanders off. I don't see him again for like 2 hours. I don't even know where he went. So he's gone. I was sitting there just like cross-legged in the sand at the beach, thinking about my dad, just thinking about my family in general. And I think it's also more than just my dad, but it was my kind of my family as a whole. Like I realized at that point, I wanted to be so honest with everyone. It was like I had this overwhelming feeling of like, I need to be a more honest person, more transparent about just everything. Like that sort of like freedom is what I was starting to feel. And I was like, I want to convey that to my family, friends, just everyone. It was like a sense of, I don't know, accomplishment at that point. I was like, oh, like, wow, like it hit me like a ton of bricks. I just need to feel, or not I need to feel, I need to act how I want to feel.
Yeah.
I think. Does that make sense? No, that's not how I want to say it. I wanted to feel like how I was thinking I wanted to feel.
Yeah.
And then act accordingly.
Gotcha.
Because I was already thinking I wanted to be more honest, but didn't have the realization,
like the courage to even like realize that you actually want. Like it was like it's one of those thoughts that like it's in your head, not as a complete thought, but as just a like I don't know, all these other cluttered, jumbled thoughts that don't actually make sense, and like the psychedelics just connect all the dots and be like, oh fuck, like that's why I'm thinking about all these other things, is because I want to be a more honest person.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
You know, there was something you said to me a few weeks ago that really stuck with me. That psychedelics are a nice and comfortable shortcut to the realizations that you already basically want to have.
Yeah. It's like, I think I'm remembering this. It's like, I forget what we were talking about, but like I told you basically like you already know the answer. It's already there. You just have to let yourself like uncover it basically. Like there's these blocks and these guards that we have up that are preventing you from being able to see the intuitive answer that is already right there and that we already know inside. But like our stupid fucking overactive minds are trying to do everything in their power to use like logic to make these decisions that at the end of the day still probably just don't matter. So it's like about just tapping into how you feel. Like I think we would have such better lives if we could just intuitively feel more than we think, if that makes sense. Like truly feel the emotions that come up rather than think about them and then judge them as like good or bad. Because I mean, we like to think about things. That's how, I don't know, that's just how we make decisions. But when we feel them, it feels a lot better. Like when you feel something, I literally just wrote about this, like intuition versus ego. Like the answer is just there, and like you don't need a reason at all. You just want to do it. Like you don't feel the need to justify it. You don't know why that's the answer. You're just like, this is what I'm going to do. I don't give a fuck who doesn't agree with me. I don't give a fuck if my own mind doesn't agree with me. I'm just going to do it. Whereas like your ego is once you start having like that mental battle of, dude, I don't know what I should do. And then you start weighing your options and like listing out pros and cons. And like, that's such a stupid fucking way to accomplish it. You're just going to end up in the same spot that you were just that you're in.
Oh, that's also a really good point about something I kind of struggle with, like pros and cons.
Yeah.
It's almost like making a pros and cons list about doing anything. Mm-hmm. I feel like you are just taking, I don't want to say this, like, you already know the answer that you want.
Yeah.
Pros and cons list is helping you figure out how bad the bad answer is. And if you're okay with living with that bad versus the decision you know you want to go with, and if it like emotionally outweighs it. But it's at the end of the day, I almost always know the answer I want with or without a pros and cons list.
Yeah.
And it's stressful.
Because a lot of the time, I think for these decisions specifically, is like it's going to change something about our lives. Like any big decision that you're thinking of. Let's just assume we're only talking about big decisions here, not like what the fuck do I want for dinner, but like any big decision, such as like should I move to a new city? Something that I have thought about recently is thinking of like what's the worst case scenario. And like, so like, yeah, I guess rather than making a pros and cons list, like I think it's still good to think about shit. Like, don't just fucking act on a goddamn whim every single time you want to. But like, rather than making a pros and cons list, just go to the cons list and don't list all of them out. Just think of the absolute worst case scenario. And once you think of the worst case scenario, so for me, I'll take you through this, exact thought processes. I'm moving to Denver. I currently live in Chicago. I like Chicago a lot. I have a lot of friends in Chicago. It's a cool city. But I just kind of want to try out Denver. Worst case scenario is I move to Denver and I don't like it. And then I just move the fuck back. Like that's literally the worst case scenario. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go move to Denver right now. Like there's nothing stopping me. Like I'm just waiting for my lease to be up. But like that's it. Whereas like I think a lot of people definitely don't like moving cities across the goddamn country. Like I know people that I went to school with at Ohio State that are never going to live outside of Ohio in their entire lives.
That's unfortunate. Also, can you explain sidebar for a quick sec? Why does everybody just fucking hate Ohio? Like I don't get it.
It's such a hateable place. I honestly like the fact that people hate Ohio made me really like Ohio a lot. It made me like living. I had no reason to go there for college at all. Like literally none. It was, I think my subconscious thought process at that point was I need to get the fuck away from my family.
That's fair.
And now, since it was, to do that subconsciously knowing that all of the problems that I had with them growing up and like the way that I felt, I knew that I couldn't solve that if I was still fucking close to them and like in all of that. I don't think I ever would have been able to make this progress if I was still around them all the time. It never would have happened. And so being farther away gave me the clarity to truly feel like I was on my own. And they were still helping me and I was still talking with them. Like, it's not like I was completely on my own at that point. I just said, fuck off. But, just being around them 24/7, like in high school, like that's just how you grow up. Like, and if there are family dynamics that are an issue, it's hard to get away from that when you're in high school. So when you were growing up, your dad, I guess, would you consider your dad like leaving? Like, how do you fucking describe this?
So to give him a little credit, I'll give him even a little more than little. I'll give him a normal amount of, he definitely tried. So when I was 4, they split up, my parents, and then I still lived with my mom for my entire life. Yeah. My dad moved a whopping 10 minutes away. So not far. And he really just, what's unfortunate, he said one thing when I was really young. I think I was literally 4. It's probably my first major memory. He said to me, "Jesse, I'm not leaving you. I'm leaving your mom." Yeah. And he did. That's why he didn't go very far away, so he could still see me. But what happened is over the next like decade and a half or so that I was growing up, I would really only see him like as most people do with like their divorced parents like on Wednesdays and like every other weekend. For some reason, that was like the stock
I don't know.
standard.
That's the exact schedule that I was on too. The Wednesdays and every other weekend. So
Like, what the fuck's that
I don't
about?
know who the fuck decided that, but it's kind of
Maybe the
inconvenient.
lawyers. Yeah, it was just really inconvenient. I was late to school every Thursday morning because I spent the night at his house. And so the other weird thing is about, I think this is actually part of it. I didn't really have a bedroom at my dad's house because he lived in multiple different places for a period of years before he like bought a house in Woodland Hills. And even then, there was still only one bed in his house. It was, even though it was a 3-bedroom, it was like only one bed he had for him and my stepmom.
Got it.
So I slept on the couch. Eventually he got a bed, and then, but I have these, okay, so this is the weird part. So my dad's Australian, right?
Yeah.
Australians love the outdoors. They love animals, insects, spiders, snakes, whatever the fuck crawls in the house just kind of lives there. So there was like an army of daddy long leg spiders that just lived in the ceiling. And I don't want to like even sugarcoat that. Like it was like there was in every corner of the house was at least 2 or 3 of them. And when you're a young kid, like 7, 8 years old, and you're sleeping beneath an army of spiders, it's a little terrifying. So I think that's where my initial like dislike for even being in his house came from.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have my own bed for a while. It just felt like I was always a guest in my father's house. It's just very strange. So it just never felt really warm and fuzzy, right? But then as I grew up and we started to do things together, like he taught me how to snowboard. He taught me how to wakeboard on a boat that he had for a number of years before the recession changed and then, or hit, I guess, and then he had to give it back to the bank. But I
Life
learned how
comes
to
at you
wakeboard.
fast.
And but I still love snowboarding though a lot, and I do that. And every time I do, I'm kind of thinking about him. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful that he gave me things that I like to do. And so it wasn't like I disliked my childhood so much as I just felt like he was my big brother and not really my dad, and didn't really give me dad things and discipline me dad ways. It was just very unorthodox. I don't know. Was your experience similar to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely some similarities. Like I always knew my dad was I think actually like no, in the sense that like I always just saw my dad as like the authoritarian figure. Like he was always there to fucking just discipline me like when I was bad. And so for me it was like don't be bad, whatever the fuck. Don't be his definition of bad. Basically like don't bother him. I think that was just kind of it. Like do as little as I possibly could so that he wouldn't get bothered. Cause like when he would get bothered, it was fucking frightening and just terrifying. Just the way that he would yell at me and Zach. And so it was trying to avoid that as much as physically possible. But again, there are also some great memories too. Like he went to every single one of my baseball games. He took me to the batting cages and stuff, like when baseball was a big part of my life. I mean, ironically, I think I've kind of put this together after the fact. I think I stopped playing baseball almost like when I was older because he wanted me to play baseball so much. And it was more of a, there's all these other mental things that are in my mind now that I don't want to deal with. That like, I don't want to give you the satisfaction of me continuing to like play baseball. So I'm just going to fucking stop. That again, is just another like subconscious decision that I made at that point. But yeah, I mean, also still kind of felt like I was a guest in that home because he got remarried and, he had more kids. And so then I had like little brothers that I would see every Wednesday and every other weekend. But like every time I'd be over, it's, help us take care of the babies. Don't fucking wake the babies, shit like that. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking be here.
Yeah. It's not a fun feeling when you're like you were the first sibling and you have to help take care of the younger ones, and then they seem to be the priority, which I also can relate to because I have 3 half siblings that my dad had. They are 13 years old, 10 and 7. I want to say I think they're all 3 years apart.
They're like really young.
They are still babies, and I am 27. So my youngest sister and I are 20 years apart.
Damn.
So needless to say, we don't have much of an adult relationship.
You're telling me you don't have much in common?
Yeah. I also haven't seen them in a long time. I haven't even talked to my dad in, I think 7 years now. Like,
So
at all.
why is that? So why haven't you talked to him in 7 years?
So, oh man, I love that question. So basically, like when I graduated graduated from Cal Poly in 2018. Right? 2018. So he did not come to my graduation.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't invited.
Got it.
And that was a really weird thing because I like wanted him to kind of be there, but also I didn't. I was like very torn about it. And then at the end of the day, all my mom's siblings, they were there. My aunts and uncles and my young cousins all came. They were like, "Where's your dad?" And it was just really eye-opening because I was like, I'm so disconnected from my own, more even immediate family too, that they didn't even know that I was disconnected from my dad.
Yeah.
Which was even more dividing for me. I felt like I was like, I don't really I like literally felt like I was just not even a part of my own family. It was really weird, very alienating.
Do you think that,
I don't know where I was going with that.
Do you think that that's something that like you did to yourself? And I only ask that because that's something that I definitely did to myself. Like I never, especially after, I mean, the second I left for college, I did not feel like I was like, even when I was still in high school, I'd spend so much time at my friends' houses, like with their parents, like all my friends' parents fucking loved me. And like, that was, again, I think just me not liking my family dynamics, that like I would see my friends and they have different family dynamics and just being interested, like, oh shit, like shit could be different. Like it doesn't have to be this. And like, to me, it seemed better. At least like, I wanted to be better and whatever that actually meant. So like, yeah, I wasn't very close with my family because I didn't like how we grew up. And essentially, I don't know, I never felt great. I never truly ever felt like I was like at home. So that's why I asked that question to you. Like, do you think that was like essentially that you alienated yourself from your family?
It does sort of feel that way, but I don't know if I don't know if I resonate entirely with that because I don't feel like I alienated myself. I feel like I never enjoyed being inside of the family. So I feel like because my dad left and my mom was taking care of me, it was just me and her me growing up for most of my life until she got a boyfriend. And then he ended up becoming basically my stepfather figure. But for the most part, I felt like I was just like, it was me and my mom. And then her family was always extra. We didn't see them very often anyway. So I feel like yes and no. I feel like I alienated myself in the sense that I wanted to have my family whole first before I could contribute to the rest of my family, I guess is the best way to put it.
I think that makes sense. I can actually, really honestly, it doesn't have to make sense at all.
Yeah, that too. That's also a good point. Like coming to terms with that and like feeling okay with the fact that your family is just kind of a mess and not trying to always fix it. That's something I've been like just kind of okay with. And actually, to answer your question, like why I haven't talked to my dad in a long time is I think part of the fact that he and I both kind of just came to this weird, like from a distance and understanding that we didn't need to talk to each other anymore.
Yeah.
And we don't dislike each other really. I could definitely call him and he would definitely answer the phone. I just wouldn't know where to start anymore. I wouldn't know how to like rekindle.
Yeah, like it's not like you're gonna ask him for fucking dad advice, like because I mean he's just not the person that you go to for that.
Exactly.
So, and he can't unless he wants to be the person that does that. He needs to be the one in order to let you know that. Like it can't be you wanting him to be that father figure that you wish that you had. He has to want that. And wow, fuck. This is like, I mean, in all relationships that you have, like it's seeing people for who they are, not who you want them to be. And like that was the biggest thing with my family and just with me in general is like I would always I'd always want something I'd always want it to be different. Like I'd want them to act a certain way. Like, I felt like they didn't understand how to love me. And so like for that reason, I would not accept love in the way that they would give it to me because it wasn't the way that I wanted. And so it was like always wanting them to be able to like change and do things the way I would want to, and having just a lot of trouble accepting things for what they are and being okay with that.
I totally agree with that. You want to receive love a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's a weird concept that I think most people don't have to ever even come across until they have a very major love division in their life. They just probably don't have to ever go through that. But it makes you really stop and think, and like you mature through it.
Yeah.
It's just not a fun feeling really, but like coming out the other side is exciting, wonderful.
Yeah, it's exciting. Like, I mean, now it's, at least for me specifically, like, I mean, this is still something that I'm just like going through, I would say. And now it's, you know, it's about seeing people for who they are and like, you know, realizing that I didn't get the love that I wanted to receive, but then also realizing like I can love myself and I can give myself the love that I want to receive. And coming, you know, realizing all of that is like, oh shit, like all these times where I didn't feel loved, I could have been loving myself at that moment. And so now it's like going back to each of those times and like reliving the experience and retroactively giving myself that love that I didn't get at the time. And then even now too, like once I start to, you know, as I meet new people and as I just go through life and notice my mind wandering again and being like overactive, it's like figuring out, okay, like why am I feeling like this? And it comes back to like things not being the way that I want them to be. And then realizing things are never going to be the way that I want them to be. I can't fucking control the world. I just need to love myself right now in this moment for exactly who I am. Just be present and love myself. And all things will just work out in that moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's like have psychedelics for you. Like, I guess why do you like psychedelics so much, Jesse? Let's fucking ask that question.
So I feel like every time I do psychedelics, I learn something new about like myself mostly.
Yeah.
And then secondarily to that, it's just really fun to like feel like something
drugs are tight.
Different. Yeah. It's like one of those things where you can't, I don't know, I still can't explain. I feel like the physical feeling that you get, like, okay, so like the come up from shrooms and acid specifically is a very specific, like giddy sort of like light bodied, party happening inside of your stomach, right? And you're like,
I like
you're gonna
that.
throw up. Maybe you throw up, maybe you don't. I never have. I'm actually one of those people. It's probably why I like them so much. Is I love the come up. I love feeling like I'm about to take off in a rocket ship.
Yeah.
But what I know is coming later. It's not like MDMA is kind of a different come up where you are actually physically feeling so much more, like your nerves are changing as they're adapting. That's kind of a different sort of feeling that I also like, but the psychedelic come up is so much more cerebral that it's like you get to enjoy that learning process of, okay, I know what this feels like, I know what's coming, and I know I'm going to learn something cool today.
Yeah.
For me, like, learning is everything.
Oh shit.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah. So it's really more about that. I think the learning something new, because I feel like I always want to be learning something new and having just fun conversations with people.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That felt like such a textbook answer that you would give just because you're on a fucking podcast right now.
That's how I really feel, though. I mean, okay, so I'll give you a non-textbook answer.
Thank you.
Smart ass. Okay, so when I was at Hard Summer in LA in 2014 was maybe a month. I want to say it was once Hard Summer. No, it was okay. Okay, so in Hard Summer is when I first did Molly for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and that was no, it wasn't. Okay, it's technically the second time. First time was at a little crazy club in San Luis Obispo where I just like sweated for 2 hours. It felt like, but that was it. But my real true emotional experience on Molly was like I was at who was I seeing that night? Dylan Francis. Fucking Francis, man. He's insane. He's an animal. He's just a fucking actor, I feel like, on stage. He can do whatever the fuck he wants and it's just fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
So what I did is I did 3 points of Molly that day, and I was like one every couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that night, I feel like I had connected to music for the first time, truly, in a way that I didn't even know I could.
Yeah.
And from then on, I started to realize my love for drugs in general actually came from music and continues to. So like my creativity for music.
Was this after you had done shrooms for the first time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So sorry, the timeline there was, or wait, no, my bad. This was early August, 2014. I did shrooms about a month later. So I started.
Okay. So this was
Molly.
the first. Gotcha. Okay. So like
this is my first like.
Yeah. Again, I don't consider Molly like a psychedelic, but like it's sort of in the same category.
Yeah, that's exactly how I'd say it too. Like it's there, but it's not this. It's just not the same. It's not.
Yeah.
And it gets its credit for what it gets, but like I have had a lot of wonderful, fun, cool conversations on Molly, but none of them are as intellectually stimulating as they are with like actual like psilocybin and LSD and one day hopefully DMT. That's my next step for sure.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. So anyway, why do I keep doing psychedelics? I feel like I've already answered the question, but non-textbook answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I think it's really just about like I'm going to use another example. At Lollapalooza this past year, where you and I were there with our homies, laying there in the grass, looking up at the sky, and the clouds that day were just beautiful.
Unbelievable. Right? What a
Crazy.
Great cloud day. I am a slut for a good cloud day.
That's a perfect way to describe that. And Chicago, man, beautiful city. And in July in Chicago, killer, unless it's really humid, and then get me the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
But other than that,
fair.
We were laying there in the grass, and I was looking up at the sky. And this was on LSD.
Yeah.
Not shrooms. I get them, but I get this feeling on shrooms too, but on acid more seriously.
Yeah.
I was looking up at the sky, and I could see these fractal patterns being created, but instead of being like a kaleidoscope, it's like wherever I looked in through the cloud, I was literally creating shapes with my eyes.
Yeah.
And that is an experience I did not know my body could do. After almost 8 years of doing this, I've never had an experience like that where my brain created something from nothing with colors that I couldn't even describe. Like it was somewhere, I was looking at a shade of purple that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
So I feel like what actually happened that day is I actually unlocked a potential part of my retina that can see more than like the visible spectrum, if that's even remotely possible. Probably not, but that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And that sort of feeling of like you can see more than is normally seeable.
Yeah.
Is an extraordinary feeling. It's fucking killer. That's all it is to it.
It's like breaking out of the fucking Matrix. Like you're like, there's something fucking more than this. That's the best way that I could do it. So like, I mean, that's similar. Like I don't think I've ever actually given that question a lot of thought. Like, why do I like taking psychedelics so much? Like, I don't think I'd have a very good answer for it. But to me, I'll say this. So last week on Thursday, I decided to take acid. as one does when they're unemployed. And
Good for you.
And this was the first time that I had taken acid since coming back from doing ayahuasca. And it was a very different experience. I felt more like myself. Like psychedelics make me truly feel like myself that I don't, for whatever reason, feel when I'm not on psychedelics. And like, it's been now a long journey of kind of understanding that. And I don't think at first it was just fun. I'm seeing all these fucking cool patterns and shapes and I feel fucking happy and giddy and I'm laughing and like, who the fuck wouldn't want to do this? But now it's more about like, I understand that it's like, again, truly just making me feel like myself and like feel all of the emotions and just feel like a human being. Whereas when I'm not in that state, I forget that most of what I do doesn't matter. And like, I just get so caught up in like all this bullshit that I genuinely don't care about, that like, I've just been programmed to give a shit about, but like in reality, it doesn't fucking matter. And when I'm on psychedelics, like it's so clear to me that none of that shit matters and that I'm just trying to like have a good time and feel human emotions. And then, I'll end up learning shit along the way. And basically it's now like, how do I have that state of mind all the time, like without psychedelics? And like, now I'm trying to figure that out of like, how do I work on this and like cultivate that feeling of myself all the goddamn time without the use of psychedelics. And like, I 100% know that like I am getting there. Like it's happening for sure. Thank you for tuning into the latest episode of the podcast. Want to just give a quick shout out and thank Jesse again for coming on here and being willing to do this with me. And you did a really great job coming on a podcast for the very first time. It definitely kind of feels unnatural if you've never done this before. So appreciate you being a good sport. And to anybody else, please follow the podcast. Please follow on Instagram. Go to the blog. Check out some of the stuff I write on there. And share it with a friend. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.